Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. I know the crypto market's down a little bit today, but that just does not matter. The XRP chart analysts that I follow believe that very soon XRP is going to go on an absolute rampage. I'm going to share with you perspective from a number of different XRP chart analysts in this video, including one who says that XRP is starting to look insane. Another one's insisting that XRP is going to be reaching $15. And look, I insist, this is my firm opinion, all of those types of expectations are safely grounded within the realm of reality. You know, the wacky stuff where people are predicting $100 plus this market cycle, you lose me. I think you're in Looney Tunes land. It ain't happening. Not this cycle anyway. I mean, to be clear, I'm not against the idea of XRP at some unknown point in the future hitting triple digits. That might happen. But this cycle, you know, if you're talking about $15, that is wildly life-changing wealth for so many people listening right now. I know that. And think about it too. XRP bottomed at 28 cents this cycle in June of 2022. So to go from that to $15, yeah, that would be a rampage. We're going to find out what happens. But look, right now, understand, we're just in a range. XRP's consolidating. So the fact that XRP was at $2.64 recently, and it's now at $2.33 is not an indicator in and of itself that XRP will or won't hit another new all-time high in price discovery. It's just normal price action, these fluctuations, and it does shake some people out. Some people also just get impatient here. But this is very normal stuff. And also, please keep in mind that the longer an asset consolidates, the better. I mean, if we're in a bull market anyway, because then when it finally bursts, it's going to burst much, much higher. That's why they have the dorky phrase, the wider the base, the higher in space. There's truth to it. The longer something consolidates, the greater the force it'll burst with when it finally goes. And XRP, for most of this year, has just been consolidating after hitting the all-time high in January. You'll love to see it. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. As I record this video, it is 5:28 p.m. Central Time, Saturday, May 17th, 2025. Again, XRP, $2.33. Bitcoin, a little over $103,000, so down a bit today, but nothing terribly catastrophic. It doesn't matter. In fact, we've seen a lot of strength in risk-on assets recently, including crypto, but take a look at this. This is a post from Charlie Bolello. He's the chief marketing strategist at Creative Planning, and he shared this chart. It says the S&P 500 is up over 19% in the last 27 trading days, one of the greatest comebacks in market history. So look, risk-on assets are being favored right now. That includes the stock market and crypto. I know it was reported as the end of the world, as crypto market just plummeted after the tariff scare, and the stock market did as well. And I was insisting throughout that whole thing, these are capitulation events, and therefore buying. That's what they're for. And look at how much the market has surged. And he's not kidding. That's not an exaggeration. It is for the stock market one of the greatest comebacks in market history. That's what we're living through. Why? Because we're in a bull market. And so risk on assets, stocks and crypto, get treated roughly the same, generally speaking. And if that's not enough for you, take a look at this. This is a post from Seth Golden. He's the chief market strategist at Finham Group. And he wrote the following. Only one other time in history has the S&P 500 made 3 all-time highs in a calendar year and not made at least 2 more all-time highs, and that's 1973. Only one time since 1980 has the high for the year been in the month of February. That was 2015. We assume a 96% probability of 2 more all-time highs in 2025. And so look, nobody knows for sure it's going to happen price-wise, but it is about probability when we're talking about stuff like this. And if that is indeed the case, and it's by a lot more probable than not that the stock market's going to keep rising, crypto's going to follow. It's just more confluence. And I keep talking about global M2 because that's a crucial metric. And it has surged. We know that Bitcoin and crypto lags behind it by 10 to 12 weeks. Which means in the short term, we're probably going to be seeing some fireworks. So this is just one more thing you can look and be like, well, historically, this is what happens, because history does tend to rhyme with itself. Here's a post from chart analyst Mustache. You've got Bitcoin on the left and the entire crypto asset class on the right. And he's noting on the left that In 2024, Bitcoin broke out of a falling wedge, and he's saying that's the same thing that's happening for the entire crypto asset class. That's the chart on the right. That's where we are right now. And so he says, don't be misled. A small stopover is normal. Dips are for buying, higher afterwards. And so look, I know that the market's dipping a little bit right now, but there are a lot of analysts that believe that any dips we get are going to be fairly shallow. And so far today, that is what we're experiencing. It's just a shallow dip. Credible Crypto has been talking about that quite a bit also. It's like, if you do get a dip, it's more likely than not just going to be shallow. I think we've got the wind at our backs at this point, folks. Here's a post from chart analyst Crypto Wizard, Bitcoin USD chart here. And I'm happy to highlight this, even if you're like me and you care way more about altcoins like XRP, because that's where the real wealth is going to come from. Bitcoin leads the market. So if Bitcoin's about to rip to the upside, you're going to want to know that, because alts will follow. There will be an alt season. And so Crypto Wizard said, strap in. The final rally has begun. Bitcoin has rocketed upside and is currently trading 9.01% higher. The journey is underway, yet some people will still doubt it. Higher to go. And he's calling this the calm before the storm. And if you look back in 2020, where I'm moving my mouse right here, calm before the storm, and look at how it ripped to the upside after it broke out. It's the same thing, history playing out very similar to how it has in the past. That shouldn't be surprising at all. But that does mean that very soon, the most fun part of this market cycle is finally going to kick off. And really, the last year has been pretty damn exciting. The last year and a half in particular. I know there's been some sideways movement that's been boring. There was a lot of that in 2024, fine. But I'm just saying over that time period, there were a lot of exciting moments. And specifically for XRP holders. Here's a post from chart analyst Mikey Bull Crypto, Bitcoin USD chart. He says, well, don't short a bull pennant in a bull trend. New all-time high loading. So he's also got high conviction that's the case. Here's a post from chart analyst Crypto Michael, one of the many analysts I follow, who, by the way, accurately called XRP breaking out this market cycle. And this afternoon, or actually it was yesterday afternoon, he wrote, altcoins will wake up after Bitcoin breaks all-time high as a massive influx of retail investors enter the market. So I will pause to note, there's not a ton of retail interest right now. And you can tell by looking at Google Trends, just type in Bitcoin, you can type in XRP, crypto, whatever. Not a ton of interest, but that's good. Look at where the prices are without the interest. Now imagine that there's way more interest on top of where it already is. That's where it gets buck wild. That's what's coming next. And it is normal for the retail side, the new money to come in after Bitcoin hits a new all-time high. Because then you get the news articles, so on and so forth, and then that'll get the mania going, the euphoria. So I buy into that concept. Wait for Bitcoin to hit a new all-time high. Ultimately, altcoins like XRP will follow, and tons of new people are going to jump into the market. Anyway, then he says, institutions will continue to buy Bitcoin while the masses ape into altcoins. The entire crypto market will pump. Mass FOMO incoming. Yes, please, and I do buy that narrative. Absolutely. Here's an ETH USD chart. And this is a post from the great Matsby making a good point here that what he says here, I'm about to read it, but the asset class moves in tandem. That's why I'm sharing this post. And look at what's happening here. It's a lot of very similar things across the board. Altcoins looking very well positioned to rip to the upside. It's just more confluence. Everything's perfectly lining up how you'd want it to. And so he says nearly every altcoin chart is either battling its 20-week moving average as resistance or successfully backtesting it like Ethereum. Being bearish now? That's a risky move for your wallet. Join the bull run. Yeah, no kidding. Here's another post from the great Matsby. This is an XRP USD chart. Let's talk about XRP the rest of the video, specifically. It says, are you paying attention to the details? Price also flipped the last fib boss back to a support last week. The .886 fib at $2.25. You can see this is the fib level he's referencing, $2.25. He's just noting that bitch is support now. That son of a bitch, absolutely. And you love to see it, because again, XRP spent most of this year, I'll say it again, it's been spent most of this year consolidating. That's a good chunk of time during a bull run. Wait till this thing rips. It's going to enter price discovery for the first time in over 7 years and melt faces. That's what's coming next. Here's a post from chart analyst Peppa at Moonchilla. XRP printing a massive bullish flag. Potential target, $15 plus. After a massive 2,500 days breakout in the quoted tweet, and I'm not going to read it, I've shared it before actually, but he he saw what was happening in November. And so on November 12th, 2024, he wrote, "Holy yes, bears are effed." And there was more to it, of course, but he was just noting that there had been a multi-year consolidation going back like the better part of a decade, and that it had finally moved to the upside. And he was right. And it was exciting, and XRP did hit a new all-time high, which people thought was impossible for years. I mean, I never thought it was impossible. You probably didn't think it was impossible, but there are a lot of people that did, because they're idiots. Anyway, and so then he says, after a massive 2,500 days breakout, in the quoted tweet, XRP is consolidating for 165 days now. Stunning how those 44-day candles are printed, isn't it? Get ready for another massive breakout. That's right, friends, it's coming. And in fact, chart analyst Ali Martinez here thinks it could be happening sooner than later. XRP appears ready to rebound as the TD sequential presents multiple buy signals on the hourly chart. Lots of optimism across the board. Here's a post from chart analyst Crypto Insight UK. He's got an XRP ETH chart here. He says, XRP ETH on the daily starting to look insane. Not only are we seeing a bullish divergence forming within the oversold area on the RSI, but the RSI itself looks like it's ready to cross bullish and break this downtrend. All of this happening in our first key area of support. And so this is playing out in a general sense how I expected it to. You saw, because, look, XRP, obviously, it had been suppressed for a number of years because of the SEC nonsense. Finally broke out. It is now unshackled. So, of course, it substantially outperformed Ethereum. Then Ethereum, priced against the dollar, just absolutely in the gutter for months and months and months and months and months. People deciding that because the price went low, that meant that Ethereum was dead, which is just a stupid take. And I insisted that was stupid throughout this whole thing. And then it burst. The price of Ethereum went up by what, like over 40% or something like that? Because it got down to somewhere around $1,400. It recently was up closer to like $2,600. I know it's a hair below that now. But it was never the end of the world. But anyway, so as ETH went up against the dollar, yeah, XRP fell against Ethereum, duh. But I predicted that would happen because that's what happened in the past. Because I was expecting a surge for Ethereum. Markets find bottoms, folks. And the reason I was talking about that is because when Ethereum does surge, that typically marks the beginning of alt season. And it did start surging. So I still think that on the whole for the remainder of the cycle, XRP is going to be trending up against Ethereum. It's going to substantially outperform. But this is what you want to see. This makes sense. This is the most logical, likely outcome, and here it is playing out. It's what you would be hoping for if you want a massive bull run. Here's a post from chart analyst Steph is Crypto. He says, XRP is about to go parabolic. Don't get fooled here. And so he sure as hell has not lost his conviction. And if you look at the stochastic RSI at the bottom, he's just noting finally to the uptrend, getting out of oversold territory. Here's a post from chart analyst E-Grade Crypto. XRP dipped to $2.31, double bottom formation. XRP is still bouncing off the red descending trend line, showing resilience. It says, currently, we're experiencing some micro noise within the range between Fibonacci.888 levels at $2.30 and $2.62. Right. And so remember how at the beginning of the video I was talking about how we're just in a range, and even though some people would subjectively believe, and that's fine, that that's a pretty big gap and it can kind of scare you, 262 down to $2.30 roughly, oh my God, is it all falling apart? It's a range, folks. This is normal. That volatility in and of itself doesn't mean anything. It's just short-term noise. Keep your eyes on the price. Higher time frame, big picture, what's happening. The answer is, again, price discovery for XRP for the first time in almost a decade, and faces getting melted the world over. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. And then there's headlines like this. It's from the Motley Fool. Prediction, XRP could be worth $600 billion in 5 years. Okay, well, that would put XRP somewhere around $10.50. I don't know that you're going to have to wait 5 years for that. I think we're going to have a surge probably this year. That would be my guess. And I don't make price predictions, but if it got up to that range where it's even close to $600 billion in market cap, that wouldn't surprise me. Not at all. But it's just neat to see like mainstream media is even talking about this now. And when they start piling in, whew, there'll just be endless stories about XRP in mainstream media. Here's another example. This one's from USA Today. 3 reasons to load up on XRP before June 2025. And this is a stupid article, but, I'm still happy to see it. Mainstream media covering stuff. And so like the only good thing that they cited here, although frankly it doesn't really matter for this cycle, because I'm convinced that whatever happens this cycle as far as price action for XRP, with or without a spot ETF, it's just not going to matter. It's going to be a small percentage of overall flows if you're talking in the short term. Now, over a span of years and decades, the spot XRP ETFs are going to be substantially consequential because so much money is going to flow in. and those ETFs are backed by actual XRP, so it does impact the supply and demand dynamics for XRP in a very material way. But there's, if you think that matters for like what's happening in the cycle, no. But that's the best thing they wrote in this article, and then they said additional stupid things. Like here's another reason: the Federal Reserve to the rescue. Talk about rate cuts. The market's going to go regardless. Look at what liquidity's doing. That's a much better indicator. And then they cite an XRP industry event as if that's something that's going to drive price. It's so stupid. XRPL Apex, the Apex event. That's going to be the reason that XRP goes, even though there's been multiple Apex events throughout the history of XRP. Okay, see, it's a stupid article, but you for mainstream media, you tend to get really stupid articles about crypto with really bad takes, and that's what this is basically. But still, I like to see it. It's nice to see that mainstream media is kind of paying attention here. And I know you are. And soon the rest of the world will be too. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.